A prop at a carnival was discovered not to be made of the usual combination of papier-mâché, but of human skin and bone. All the little kiddies at the haunted house had been poking and giggling at the real mummified dead body. Well, that little myth turned out to be the truth. Apparently the smell wasn't just coming from the convict manning the corn dog stand. Back in 1976, a camera crew filming an episode of The $6 Million Man began to set up in the haunted house at the New Pike amusement park in Long Beach. As they were moving aside a hanging man prop, they accidentally knocked off its arm and discovered human bones inside. Bionic, this poor sap wasn't. The story gets stranger. The body was actually that of a criminal mastermind, Elmer McCurdy, who was killed in a shootout after robbing a train in 1911. The princely sum old Elmer got killed for was $46. Oh yeah, and 2 jugs of whiskey. McCurdy was embalmed by the local undertaker, and apparently the guy was so damn pleased with his work that he propped up the corpse in the funeral home as evidence of his skills. People were charged 5 cents to see the corpse, which they paid by dropping a nickel into the mouth. Think it can't get any stranger? Oh, you naive fool. After several years of raking in the nickels, how exactly these coins were retrieved after being dropped into the corpse's mouth is something probably best left to the imagination. Our enterprising undertaker's scheme was ruined when McCurdy's brothers showed up to claim him. Of course, these guys weren't his brothers at all, but wily carnival promoters. From that point on, McCurdy's mummy went on a morbid mystery tour all around America, popping up at carnivals all over the country, before finally coming to rest in Long Beach. McCurdy is now buried in Oklahoma. Because McCurdy apparently is the most entertaining corpse in history, they prevented anyone else from taking him on tour by dumping concrete on top of his casket. Although the Titanic was an English ship, she was built in Ireland. When the hull numbers were painted onto the ship, the Catholic crew stared in disbelief at the reflection the numbers made on a piece of metal in the shipyard. The numbers, when read backwards in the reflection, appeared to spell the words "No Pope." They quickly warned their supervisors that the ship was cursed, for the devil had put his stamp on the numbers, but they were laughed at and told to get back to work. Later, they wished they'd been more persuasive. This story is centered on a general store in a small town. 2 gentlemen who ran the store one day had the monotony of their daily chores interrupted by a woman who was dressed all in grey. Entered the store, picked up a glass container of milk from the dairy case, and then promptly walked out of the door. Frozen for a few moments by the audacity of this woman, the 2 men finally collected their wits and dashed out the door after her, but she was already gone. 2 days later, the incident occurred a second time. The third time, the men were prepared. When she entered the store, they watched as she picked up the container of milk and again walked out the door. This time they raced after her, chased her down the street and finally down a dirt path at the edge of a town where they lost sight of her. However, upon further exploration, the 2 men discovered an old cemetery where they could hear a baby's cry coming from the ground in front of the gravestone, and a fresh gravesite of a woman and infant were recently buried together. The men found shovels and quickly unburied the coffin, the crime becoming more clear as they dug. Finally, opening the coffin, they discovered the same small woman in grey they had spotted in the store, only here she was dead. In her arms were a live, crying infant and 3 empty containers of milk. The child was inadvertently buried alive, and the spirit of the mother had kept the baby alive for several days until she was found.